Welcome to Your Future, Your Life from Planet Waves. This is the mid-year reading. My name is Eric Francis Coppolino, your astrologer for this project and maybe a few other places and times. Your Future, Your Life is a set of 12 video readings that apply to your sign and your rising sign. I know some of you have access to all 12 and some have access to just one or two. While the 12 are designed to work together as a set and as a kind of a multifaceted reference, also I designed them so they're holographic and that the whole is contained in the parts. So any one of the 12 should be able to deliver the whole message as you need it. There are going to be two introductory videos today. One is going to cover the spiritual themes and the kind of subject areas I'm working within when I do the astrology readings, and the other one is designed to just introduce you to the basic planetary movements that are going on. As I say, I've got this basic diagram, and I will have one, or plan to anyway, for each of the 12 signs. So, apropos of our spiritual situation, we are living in times of what I'm calling groundlessness. One of the issues that I am grappling with lately is the number of people who are devoted to investigating certain facets of science, who have convinced themselves that the Earth is flat, and that everything the Earth stays still while everything else orbits around it. As you can imagine, I think this is somewhere between humorous and sad, but I think also that it is a commentary on the times in which we're living. I mean, naturally, I'm trying to figure this out, right? I mean, I know a lot of these people somewhat well. I'm familiar with some of their other work, and so, as you might imagine, I'm a bit surprised to hear that they have this viewpoint as if because you can't trust one branch of science, you can't trust all of science, as if just because you can't trust Anthony Fauci, you also can't trust Galileo, Kepler, and Copernicus. But given my background in media studies with the McLuhan family, I have learned to take this as a metaphor. And the way I'm assessing this is that we're living in times of profound groundlessness. The ground has been ripped out from beneath us. Now, how did that happen? Well, suddenly one day we had our whole lives projected onto the internet, or so it seemed, right? It started slowly. You'd have a little card, and you'd come to a restaurant like this, and you'd scratch the thing off, and you'd log in, you'd enter the code, and you'd have 15 minutes on the thing. Now we never get 15 minutes off of the thing. I have no interconnective devices around me intentionally, but this will eventually be connected. But we have, over the past approximately 25 years, one by one, brought the entirety of our lives onto the internet, or it has infiltrated our lives in such a way that it would seem as if there's no escape. And this is not what you might think that it is. What is really going on, as far as I'm concerned, is the loss of physical reality, the sense that we no longer live in a physical world, which is true enough because the internet is groundless. On the internet, one is shorn of their biology, one is shorn of their gender, one is shorn of physicality, basically. And so those people who spend a lot of time on the internet in a way that is unconscious of this issue, and who also, I think, more significantly, spend a lot of time on the internet that's not creative, that is consuming but not creating much, are going to have a worse problem with groundlessness, because at least when you're being creative on the internet, you're working the territory. You're experimenting, and you are seeing what result you get. So there's a little bit of ground made in that process. But for the most part, we're living in an artificial intelligence world. We're accustomed to computers making decisions for us. We're getting notifications all the time about what we're supposed to do, what we're supposed to think, how we're supposed to respond. And this has led to a world in which it is very difficult to trust, and where it is very, very easy to panic people and to spread fear. And so we're living in this artificial intelligence reality where it is difficult to build trust and to build relationships, and then at the same time we are being constantly assaulted by some new thing to make us afraid of, which would be different if we were in a body. Completely different experience. I mean, the metaphor that I use is that imagine there were two adjoining rooms, and one room was a bunch of kids way too high on LSD, music going, and there you go. In the next room, there's a meeting of the teachers union. So now imagine someone bursts into the room where the kids are high on acid and says, "There's an evil demon. It's going to get you. It's going to eat your soul." That would be frightening. If you burst into and very disorienting, right? If you burst into the room with the teachers union meeting going on and said, "There's an evil demon. He's coming to get you. He's going to eat your soul," they would look at you like you were nuts. And that's more or less the comparison between the old and the new. My favorite philosopher, Marshall McLuhan, once said that the computer is LSD for the businessman. He said this in the 1960s. The computer is LSD for the businessman. Okay, so now I don't think that he envisioned a time when every single person would have one in their pocket. I haven't seen that. But if the computer is like the businessman tripping out on acid, then we are all surrounded by computers 24/7, and we're all basically tripping out. And tripping out means partly to be in a wide open, vulnerable, and disembodied state, and it presents special conditions around trust and special conditions around fear. And it's fair enough to say that the constant emphasis on fear leads us to a place where it is very, very difficult to trust. And we are having difficulty trusting right now. All of the institutions that we are supposed to depend upon now are falling apart. We cannot rely on the government to take care of us. Well, whatever you may or may not think COVID or a pandemic was, it is clear that the people who were in charge at best royally fucked it up. And now we're supposed to count on them in the future. The economy is in such shaky condition that there are plenty of people wondering if the next time they check their bank balance, going online, check if the money's going to be there. Every possible source of ground has been put into question. And as Nick Lowe wrote in that fabulous song, "Where are the strong and who are the trusted?" And it's a relevant question now, because we need the strong and the trusted, and many of the people who we thought of as the most intelligent among us have lost their footing as well. And this is throwing us back on ourselves, and it's doing so in a time when it's very difficult to have a sense of self. All of this makes building relationships very difficult. It is difficult to really understand where people are coming from. Owing to the groundlessness problem, it is challenging to find any semblance of common ground. And so relationships generally are built on common ground. Trust is built on common ground. That's when you say you trust someone, it means that you share enough ground with them to have a sense of mutual interests, not competing interests, and that has become exceedingly difficult. Ethics are pretty much, if ethics are not out the window, we expect them to be out the window. And so how can you tell if someone is going to do right by you? And if you start to ask yourself the question, why should they? You may not like the answer. And so we have to address this. There's no way around this. Humans cannot live in a world and function, be happy, where there is no trust. We are living in times when it is difficult to discern the difference between dream and reality. And this is not so much like, am I dreaming? Like, that thing is there, okay, it's solid. But rather, we expect physical reality to have the unstable properties of a dream. And so this is more of this groundless disorientation. The next thing is we have some questions around the issue of self. What is self? And I alluded to that. I think that the scene of the crime in terms of what digital has taken from people is to be found in Aries. It is every one of these new media that's come through our world since the advent of radio has done so under the influence of Eris and Aries. And this has created completely shifting ground and an unstable sense of being and of internal reality. Fortunately, I'll get to this in the astrological portion, we have Chiron moving through Aries, which I think is here to help us reclaim some of that sense of inner direction and inner being. Because one way to look at all of this is that digital reality pushes us out of body, which is why we feel groundless. Because the ground of our reality is the physical body. That's at least a central point of orientation. Most spiritual paths try to get us off of that. I understand the value and the wisdom in doing so, but without at least having that ground to return to and shift interpretations of, there's very little. Finally, there are practical matters of, let's say, survival and sanity. We have seen how fast, how much can be taken away. We have all lived through a profoundly traumatic experience of essentially watching the world shut down and being ordered to stay in our homes by people who had no idea, either at best had no idea what they were doing, or at worst had some pernicious motives for doing this. And this leads to the natural question, what's next? One of the ways people strive to answer these issues is by getting with their tribe. The problem with getting with tribes these days is that they are so heavily conditional on believing every last thing on the checklist and believing anything at all, really, right? It's all about belief when it comes to tribes. And all about following leaders, right? Your internal orientation is destabilized, and therefore you're going to get with other people and follow the leader, right? That's the plan, right? That's either the intent or the effect of this electrical digital environment. But this is not helpful. Not helpful. And when we come to this equation from a place of inner conflict, it is especially risky. So there is my opening theme. This is what I think we are living with at this time in our lives. Now, I see I've only taken 15 minutes here, so I'm going to shift my position a little bit because I'm going to look at charts. Here, let's see, how does this work? Maybe this will work. Let's see, I should probably turn up the brightness a little bit. No. So that you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, so the astrological era that we are living in began on January 12th, 2020. That was the conjunction of Pluto and Saturn in Capricorn. Capricorn is the sign of all of our trusted institutions. Capricorn is where we're supposed to feel safe having money in the bank, in the stock market, even in crypto. Saturn is Capricorn, ruled by Saturn, is the home of trusted institutions. And these include family. But Pluto plus Saturn in Capricorn, Pluto for the long run, and then Saturn for about 2.5 years. What is going on with the light here? Have made this very difficult and have created a sense of living in an earthquake zone. And so part of what we're dealing with is the fact that we live in a kind of an earthquake zone, and we don't know when it's spiritually speaking, right? I mean, most of the United States is not in a severe earthquake zone, but spiritually speaking, when we go to bed at night, are we sure that the house is going to be there, or is it going to cave in on us? Okay, so knowing that is the main astrological concept of the groundlessness that we are in, and it was also a time when a vulnerability that we all had was exploited. When you look at the timeline for what was going on in that first week and a half of January 2022, we were moved upon hard and fast by all the factors we're supposed to trust. All the people, all the institutions, all of the concepts we're supposed to believe in turned on us during that thing. That one time every approximately 35-year conjunction. We are now in a transitional era, out of that era and into a completely new era in history that is going to last for about 20 years. That's a long time. Those of us pushing 50, 60, 70, 80 are thinking, wow, 20 years. But that's where we are. And this era is going to be defined by Pluto in Aquarius. So astrologically, everything is heading toward Pluto in Aquarius. Pluto gets to Aquarius in March of 2023, and then it dances back and forth over the Capricorn Aquarius line, there is a kind of a mini, that is the essence of the transition. So when you look at the planets, first of all, so let's look at this chart, and I'll print a copy of this chart and make it available as a PDF. here is Pluto in, well, Pluto on the line between Capricorn and Aquarius. Now it's going to move back and forth for about 18 months between Capricorn and Aquarius. It's going to make basically a double ingress. The meaning quadruple. When outer planets change signs, often they will change signs, retrograde back, and change signs and stay. Pluto going into Aquarius does that twice. There are going to be 2 retrogrades between Capricorn and Aquarius. I've never seen this before. I became an astrologer at the very end of Pluto in Scorpio, a very different part of the orbit of Pluto than where we're going to be now. Okay, so because Pluto's radically slowing down. So we've got one important thing is Pluto going back and forth. The next thing is that Saturn is right around the same time. Saturn is going to, I don't have a very big monitor I'm looking at, so I can't really see what I'm doing. Saturn is going to be entering Pisces. That happens in March. So I'm also preparing you for that. I've been preparing everyone as best I can for the ingress of Pluto into Aquarius for years now, and learning how to speak that language. Finally, for the next 6 months or so, we have Jupiter dancing back and forth between Pisces and Aries. Oh, good, see that? Pisces and Aries. So when you have slow movers or moderately slow movers like Jupiter changing signs all at the same time, that indicates that all of reality and all of consciousness is going to be shifting even more. These are three of the deepest signs. They're the last 3 signs are involved: Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces, followed up by Aries, with Jupiter doing what I'll call its dream dance between Aries and Pisces, again for about 6 months. And so, there's something interesting there in terms of Jupiter in Aries helping solidify our sense of self, retreating back into Pisces to kind of melt and expand our sense of self, and then coming back into Aries for a new experiment in making our sense of self tangible. So that much is likely to be helpful, to have activity between Aries and Pisces in a time when the transpersonal planets are making big maneuvers in transpersonal signs. Those transpersonal signs being Cap, Aquarius, and Pisces. Okay. One last major point, and then I'll touch on a couple of fine points. I think that the most important and most challenging event of late 2022, the thing that everything is heading toward, and the thing that, owing to various shades of inner conflict that people tend to be in, is Mars retrograde in Gemini. On the new Planet Waves FM, I gave a couple of different talks about the Gemini factor, and Gemini being the sign of reflective self-awareness. Those twins in Gemini are the first people we meet in the journey of the zodiac through the signs. And we could look at them as the brothers, as the twins, as the lovers, various other things, but really they're about an inner facet of consciousness. They describe the mind being aware of itself. They describe the inner dialogue. They describe our ability to find companionship within ourselves. There are a number of different interpretations of what those twins are. The most common is the immortal twin and the mortal twin, Castor and Pollux. And this you could also look at as a dialogue between the ego and the soul, or the ego and the spirit. Mars enters Gemini. Where have I got that? In August. I've got it right on this chart. Mars enters Gemini on 8/20. Goes retrograde for much of the end of the year, and then finally it stations direct in January, and then moves into Cancer in March, along with many other changes. So from the standpoint of the purpose of these readings, what I am aiming to do is to prepare us all for what happens in early 2023. We need to live through it. Mars retrogrades in particular are challenging. Mars is very forward-moving. It does not like to reflect too much on the nature of its own reality. We have a lot of Mars issues in our culture: anger, aggression, hostility, and conflict. And we have a lot of Gemini issues, right? The matter of whether we are self-aware, whether we care about self-awareness, whether we feel like we belong within ourselves. I think that a very important answer to Mars in Gemini is Chiron in Aries. As I'm recording today on Monday, I forget the date, I think the 14th, or the 13th, Monday, whatever Monday is, we're about to experience the Sag full moon. That is to say, the sun in Gemini being opposed by the moon in Sagittarius, and Mars is making a conjunction to Chiron. That is on Wednesday. So Mars issues call for healing. I had a friend who always used to say, everyone needs anger management training. We're going to see that for what it is when Mars goes retrograde in Gemini. We're going to find out the state of our inner relationship. Part of what I view my role as your astrologer is to help you recognize that you have an inner relationship, to value and appreciate that relationship, to experience your inner relationship as ground on which you can experience your being, ground on which you can learn to trust yourself, and ground from which you can learn to relate to others and trust others in a way that is exceedingly rare here under full digital conditions. Okay, so that is my warm-up to your future, your life. My next stop will be Aries, so be doing that reading possibly in a little while. Please share this, experiment with it, send me your feedback. efc@planetwaves.net is my email address, and if you have any thoughts or questions or topics you'd like me to cover, now's the time to send them in. Again, efc@planetwaves.net. Kate Rajenko in Poland is going to be processing all these videos. Kate, thank you for your help, and I'll be back with the next video. Thanks for watching and listening, and bye for now.